And we're back with another episode of Let's Play Lost Odyssey. I'm your host, the RPG Guy, and we are not out of the woods yet of what we can do in the city of Numara. There's a lot of things still left for us to do, including reading our second to last 1,000 Years of Memory, which is coming up, amongst other things. Let's go ahead and make a save. I haven't saved in a while after finding all that stuff. And we're saved. Yay. Let's keep moving. Running. Here we go. Hey, you can't just take that. Hey, come back here. Make me. He gets me every time. I'm gonna teach him a lesson one of these days. And here we go. Our second to last dream. Yes. It's gonna make the last one all that more delicious, won't it? A dream has been revealed. Lottery of life. I'm still trying to get over my laryngitis issue. Having kids and is like playing the lottery. That was how the police commissioner put it, with a grim smile and a sigh. He was the man in charge of domestic security. Sometimes you pick a winner and sometimes you pick a loser. Life is like that. You can't control it. Kai responded with a silent nod. Not that he was convinced that you could divide people into winners and losers, but that was how they did it here in this country. That was the size of a city. He had no choice but to recognize it as reality, because the man who kept the peace here believed it, and this nation was known for having the best public safety of all the countries in the region. Every kid in there is a loser. He spat out, jerking his chin toward the juvenile prison visible from his office window. Built to hold young criminals, this was the largest and the most strictly run and most closely guarded prison to be seen in any of the neighboring countries. Its treatment of its young inmates was also the harshest. You're a foreigner, Kaim, so you may not approve. But we have our own way of doing things. I see, Kaim said. Losers are losers. There's nothing you can do to make losers into winners. It's never going to happen. Far from it, if you coddle losers, they just turn into bigger losers and give their decent people a lot of trouble. See what I mean? That's one way of looking at things. Kaim's deliberate irony was lost on the police commissioner. No, it's the only way. If you're going to have a safe, peaceful country, he declared, and we'll expect you to abide by this view too. And we'll expect you to abide by this view too. Kaim had nothing more to say to him. If he were to insist on confronting the police commissioner, he might be seen as questioning the authorities, which could land him in the adults' prison. This would be easy enough to bring about for the police commissioner, and indeed for anyone in the city-state who stood on the side of the powers that be. The commissioner glanced again toward the juvenile prison. They built that place 80 years ago, he said, which is to say, the very first building they made when the present political system came into being was a prison to throw young offenders into. Kaim knew this. For Kaim, whose life went on forever, events of 80 years before could well have been yesterday. 80 years earlier, this country had experienced a coup d'etat. The revolutionary government ruled the people under a military dictatorship and jailed every last person suspected of disturbing the peace and order. The government was especially wary of younger criminals. There's a limit to how serious a kid's crimes can be. We let them get away with those, and the next thing you know, they're doing really bad stuff. They might be satisfied with shoplifting at first, but soon they're into burglary, muggings, they start using weapons, and in the end they think nothing of killing people. You have to nip them in the bud. The kids sent to prison were fed the absolute minimum to keep them alive. No doctors saw them if they fell sick or were injured. Subjected to such harsh imprisonment, they succumbed one after another, and more than a few of them ended up as cold corpses pitched out the back door. Whenever one didn't manage to serve out his term and return to the outside world, he found it impossible to erase the brand of loser. Children with criminal records were soundly rejected by respectable society. The social system was structured in such a way that nothing worked for them. Employment, marriage, even finding a place to live expelled by society. These boys and girls returned to crime as a way to stay alive, eventually ending up in adult prison. With a bitter smile, the police commissioner said to Kaim, "I'm sure this all sounds terrible to an outsider like you." Kaim answered with a slight nod. This only served to increase the bitterness of the commissioner's smile. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "And to tell you the truth, I sometimes think the system is a little too harsh on them too. But you have to realize that we're not just punishing bad kids. We're also holding them up as examples of the good ones. What would they think if they saw the ex-criminals out in the street again, walking along like nothing ever happened? They'd figure that even if they got their hands dirty and spent a few years in jail, they could just go back to their old lives. That society's punishments is no big deal. That they can get away with murder. We wouldn't want our kids to be like that, would we? So the only thing is for us grown-ups to teach them. Look at those guys, we can say. All it takes is one bad deed and your life is over. So you'd better listen to your parents and teachers and be good." He definitely had a point. Kaim was willing to grant him that. But still, the commissioner must have noticed a hint of shadow crossing Kaim's face, and he shifted his tone of voice. With bureaucratic conviction, he declared the authorities have received word that there is going to be a coup. Of course, the military have everything under control, so there's nothing to worry about. They could suppress it right now if they wanted to. They could easily attack the agitators and capture the ringleaders of the plot. In this case, though, they've decided to let it get started in order to smoke out every last one of the reactionary elements. According to the government's intelligence, the uprising was scheduled to occur that very night. We are prepared for just about any eventuality, but there is always the possibility of the unexpected. If there were a riot inside the juvenile prison timed to coincide with the rebellion, that could be a real problem. This is why Kaim has been hired as a temporary prison guard, a bodyguard for the state. We're counting on your skills as a seasoned warrior, which is why we're entrusting you with such a major responsibility. Be sure to live up to your expectations. If you have to resort to violence, we have no problem with that. Whatever you do, it will be for the sake of law and order. It will be in order to protect the happy lives of the decent citizens of our nation. Carry out your duties with complete dedication of body and soul. The commissioner handed Kaim a one-page document. It was literally a license to kill. Act without the slightest restraint. All the prison guards have one of these. But still, if you hesitate to impose the ultimate punishment on a single loser, then countless winners among the uprising citizenry must suffer the consequences. You understand, I'm sure. Once a loser, always a loser. Rather than living with such a burden, they themselves might be happier to have you kill them and get it over with. Kaim accepted the document from the commissioner without comment. That completes our contractual arrangement. Now assume your post. With a perfectly straight face, the commissioner cautioned Kaim. Just make sure you don't let any foolish compassion get in your way. The season was midwinter, but Kime found no hint of fire burning in the juvenile prison. In their tiny, solitary cells, the young inmates, wrapped in ragged blankets, lay helplessly in the dark. Painful moaning came from one cell, suggesting its inmate might be running a fever. From another came unbroken, shrill, mean laughter that could only the person's mind snap out of. What? From another came unbroken, shrill... That's, again, am I reading this wrong? From another came unbroken, shrill, mean laughter that could only the person's mind have snapped. That could only... Okay, from another came unbroken, shrill laughter that could only mean the prison's mind has snapped. Another error. Interesting. Seen 2 grammatical errors so far in the last, just within 2 episodes. Seems like these later memories were not looked at as closely. What you see is what you get, said the veteran guard guiding Kime on his first round of inspection. Not one of those faces show any life. So even if something were to happen, these pitiful creatures couldn't do a damn thing. They're losers, all right. They're breathing, but that's about it. Is there really no possibility of them being rehabilitated and becoming winners? The other guard gave Kime a momentary blank stare and then said with a laugh and a wave, No, none at all. 80 years since the revolution, and the change of generations had replaced virtually all the people from that time. Since coming of age, this prison guard, who has no memory of life before the revolution, had been planted with the idea that people were either winners or losers, and he surely never doubted it. They went out of their way to hire you, so it might be a little strange for me to say this, but I'm sure the kids in here are never going to riot, no matter how wild things get on the outside. Splash a little cold water on them, and they'll quiet right down. There's almost none of them you have to worry about. Almost. Well, I can't claim that about every single one of them. There are even losers among the losers, unfortunately. The guard showed Kime to the end of the hall, and there he opened the lock on a door so thick it could be mistaken for a section of the wall. Beyond here are the punishment cells. This is where we throw the incorrigible losers, the ones who have caused trouble on work details, the ones who take a different attitude, the ones who show no sign of remorse for their crimes. Suddenly it was clear to Kime. It was clear to him because he had experienced countless battlefields in his life. The punishment cells were darker and far colder than the regular cells, but from the depths of the darkness, from within each individual cell, there emanated a quiet heat that could not be felt from the regular cells. The people in here were alive. They were not simply breathing. They were alive with real passion. The crimes that originally got them locked up here were nothing much. A little burglary and some purse snatching, flashing a knife, stuff like that. If they had just quietly served out their terms, they'd be out now, living obscure lives somewhere. Instead, they resisted and kept resisting. They called for better treatment of inmates. They appealed for an end to discrimination against former prisoners. The number of their crimes multiplied, until it became clear they would never get out of there alive. They'll just go straight from here to the adult prison when they grow up. It'll be 20 or 30 years before they can breathe the outside air again. If they can live that long, which would be quite an accomplishment. The guard concluded with a belly-shaking laugh, which was interrupted by a voice echoing from a dark cell. Stop that laughing. It was a quiet but commanding voice, though one that retained a hint of boyishness. A look of fear crossed the guard's face, though he quickly reverted to a sneer. This is the biggest pain we've got, he said. His name is Dirren. They say he was the leader of a gang of juvenile delinquents on the outside, but here he's just a noisemaker. The guard picked up a bucket of water from the corridor floor with a thin sheet of ice on its surface, and heaved the contents into Dirren's cell. This is what works best on these kids. Behind the bars, the drenched boy had rolled himself up in a ball. There should be enough for them to freeze to death, but the water itself freezes again in the early morning. So then their hair and eyelashes and any other hair they've got gets coated in ice. Some of them have lost fingers and toes to frostbite. The guard laughed again. Diren lay there curled up, but his eyes were shining with such intensity. It was as if he were trying to melt the ice with the heat seething in his breast. Kaim knew those eyes. Those were the eyes of a warrior. And not just any warrior, but one on the very front line in a losing battle who watches for the chance to turn the battle in his favor. And Kaim knew something else. That the system was beginning to unravel. It had kept the people in a state of suppression for 80 long years, ever since the revolution, but the very moment its undoing had arrived. The prison fire started that night. Kaim, it's the coup! The guard came running to report the situation on the outside. Fires had been set throughout the city, he said. This was, of course, the uprising the government intelligence had anticipated. Martial law was declared, and the government was mobilizing the entire police force and army. Word had come, too, that the ringleaders were already under arrest. One element, however, had been wholly unanticipated. The guard informed him the wind is strong tonight. Fanned by unseasonable winds, the flames were racing through the city. On orders from the commissioner, we are not to fight the fires in the juvenile prison. Is that clear? Do not engage in firefighting here. In other words, no one would be coming to save the inmates. It can't be helped, said the guard. The army and the fire department have all they can do. The army and the fire department have all they can do to put out fires in the city and evacuate the people. Another questionable line. They can't spare any men to protect this place, and we've been ordered to join the rescue effort in town. I guess that means we let the kids out? This was a given, Kaim assumed. Left locked up in their cells, the young inmates would burn to death. Don't be ridiculous, the guard shot back. These kids are all losers. We've gone to the trouble of locking them in here, and now we're supposed to let them out? Are you serious? Kaim replied. Are you serious? I can't believe you'd say anything so stupid. I'm telling you, they're losers. We don't have time to save them, and we're certainly not going to let them run loose. The commissioner would never allow such a thing. He obviously meant every word he was saying. They were planning to let them die. The flames were spreading quickly, and screams could be heard throughout the prison. There's no time to appeal directly to the commissioner, and such an appeal would only end in failure, he was sure. Give me the cell keys, Kaim said. You're joking, the guard laughed. There was only one thing to do. Without a word, Kaim landed a punch on the guard's solar plexus. The guard went down in a heap, and Kaim tore the clump of keys from his belt. The first cell he opened was Diren's. The boy came out, looking confused. Are you one of us? He asked Kaim. Are you with the coup? Not interested, he answered. So why are you letting us go? Diren asked. Because I don't like dividing people up into winners and losers. Thanks, Diren said. Sporting a big grin, he took the keys from Kaim and turned away and started opening other cells. I want you to come back, Kaim said to him from behind. What's that? This is an emergency evacuation. When the sun comes up and the fires are out, I want you to come back here. You kids still haven't finished paying for your crimes. You must be kidding. Not at all, Kaim said. If you kids run away, that'll prove they're right. Once a loser, always a loser. Is that all right with you? Don't you want to show the ones who rule this country that they're wrong, that people can change? But we'll never get another chance like this. This coup is going to fail. You can run around all you want, but they're going to catch you in the end. You'll always be branded losers. They might even kill you when they catch you. Diren turned to stare at Kaim. The prison was already surrounded by flames against the bright red backdrop. Diren's eyes still burned with the fighting spirit of a warrior. This country's political system can't last much longer. The day will come when you kids can leave prison with your heads held high. I absolutely believe that. And because I believe it, I don't want to see you die for it. I am tempted to be able to pull the guard up from the floor. Come back after sunrise. With this final admonition to Diren, Kaim hoisted the guard onto his back and trudged away. Come back after sunrise. These events occurred 50 years ago. An air of freedom pervades the country now when Kaim visits 50 years later. True, he does not catch glimpses of young, tough, and juvenile delinquents where the nightlife thrives, but he feels this is just a sign of the free and easy times. An old man calls out to him, "Are you a traveler?" When Kaim nods, the man says with a smile, "You're in luck. We're having a celebration in Revolution Square today. The grand old man of the revolution is going to attend. It'll keep going all night long." A celebration? That's right. I see you're too young to know what happened here in the old days. We had a coup 50 years ago on this very day. The coup itself was put down in one night. The rebel troops set fire all through the city, so the rest of us were running around like crazy in all directions. Fanned by the wind, the flames quickly enveloped the whole city, and a lot of the city people were stranded on a sandbar downwind. I was one of them. I had my pregnant wife and baby daughter with me, so I couldn't just dive into the river and escape. Before we knew it, sparks were raining down on the sandbar, and I figured we were done for. We'd all burn to death as soon as the dry grass caught fire. Just as he was giving up hope, he says, a helping hand was extended to them from the most unlikely source. The kids from the juvenile prison came to help us. They were all skin and bones, and their prison uniforms were falling apart. The prison staff hardly fed them a thing, but they pooled what little strength they had. They saved old folks and children from the sandbar, and they struggled to douse the fires they caught in the dry grass. I saw one boy carrying a child across the river and collapse and die the second after he reached the other shore, and some of the ones who were fighting grass fires were overcome by the smoke and burned to death. They risked their lives to save us. Their own lives were not worth living, but those losers risked their lives to save the lives of the winners like us. When the sun came up and they could be sure that the fires were safely out, the young inmates went back to the juvenile prison. Yes, it's true. The place was an absolute hell for them, but they went back inside just the same. Not one of them took advantage of the confusion to run away. They played it strictly by the rules, wouldn't you say? We were really moved by their behavior, and people started saying that maybe these losers had their good points after all. Maybe once a loser, always a loser was wrong. The whisper spread throughout the country, quietly but surely. Soon the view emerged that the treatment of juvenile prison inmates should be improved. Another increasingly widely held view was that society ought to welcome ex-inmates more warmly once they had paid for their crimes. Finally, the change in attitude towards loser children took the shape of dissatisfaction with the political system that had continued to foster such a dictatorship, and, 40 years ago, a second coup occurred. The next coup took the shape of a citizens' revolution that involved the masses, and for that reason it succeeded. That's how the form of government we have today got its start. Listening to the old man's reminiscence, Kaim finds himself smiling and nodding again and again, deeply moved. The last thing the old man tells him is the name of the hero who led the revolution and became the first president of the new government, Diren. Tens of thousands of people have gathered in Revolution Square as fireworks are sent aloft and a brass band plays a rousing national anthem. The grand old man of the revolution takes to the stage amid thousands cheers and applause. Diren, Diren, oh Diren! Advanced in years now, and having long since removed himself from the center of politics, Turner still has that youthful, fiery gleam in his eyes. There's no way for him to spot Kime among the assembled throng, and even if he were to notice him, he could never imagine that this young man, unchanged from 50 years ago, was the temporary prison guard on that fateful night. Still, the old hero proclaims, "People can change. There are no winners or losers." His words are greeted with cheers and fireworks, and the excitement of the celebration reaches its peak. Kime makes his way to a stand at the far end of the square and buys himself a cup of liquor. He raises his cup to the hero of the revolution, who, from this distant vantage point, appears to him no larger than a speck. He downs the drink in a single breath. When the intensely strong liquor has passed his throat, it leaves a sweet and mellow aftertaste. Whew, that was a long one. But again, we're mostly getting done with them, so yay. It's just taking time. And it's world building, and it's dense. That one felt a little weaker to a degree, though, to me, in all fairness. So when I go see Arthosaurus, children have no fear at that age. Nope, they do not. Have you heard of this kingdom full of barbarians that existed long ago to the east? They had an extravagant treasure deep inside its temple. It's said to be protected by a cursed mast sitting on top, ready to strike at anyone looking to steal the treasure. Pretty cool, no? I'd love to see it for myself at least once in my life. My brother knows so much about everything, but he only tells me some of his stories. So we find out about a treasure hidden in a place known as the Temple of Enlightenment. Okay. And as you can see, the bridge there is up. We still got some more stuff we can do in Numara. But, really we need, now that we have treasure hunt info that reflects going to old Numara, we're going to go start heading that way to knock that stuff out. Oop, got hung up again. Running. So, let's see here. Again, there's really not much to do in Numara outside of just, like I said, collecting the side quest stuff, and we're going to be making a few secondary trips to places we really couldn't go before and finish things. But yeah, amongst other things, we're going to be knocking these out. As out we go. So to the port of Numara. Alright, so now that we're here at the port, let's go this way. As we're looking for more goodies. When the Arthosaurus attacked, they killed a bunch of people at what's now called the Ghost Town. One of my friends went back to retrieve a family heirloom, but all he made out was a sea of flames mixed with the sounds of beast footsteps. Thump, thump, thump.
At that point, he figured his life was more precious than the heirloom, so he threw it somewhere and ran off. The way he put it, if he didn't do that, he would be here today. So we find out about that. Yay. Alright, stuck on all kinds of stuff. Alright, let us now go to said ghost town, because we're going to get this treasure. We're also going to go buy the pip pot that's there, that we've been waiting for oh so long. Because, yeah, reasons. Do-do-do-do-do. Amongst other things that we need to do. Do 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 do. Let's see. There it is. Sweet. Alright, Areno, and here is the pip pot here. So this is Lyram's house. Yep, Mom, Dad's, Max, and my house. It's very nice, Lyram. Lyram must have. It's very nice. Lyram must have been happy here. Yeah. Alright, so let's do the exchange. We get the fuzzy seed. Now we can actually go and drop this one off to the next pit pot and even the following pit pot. And we're going to do that now because the sooner we can, always the better. I'm not going to lie, always the better. But that means we got to leave the town. Well, the best part is the last 1,000 years of memories is coming up, if I'm not mistaken, because it's a forced memory. So, when it comes, that'll be great. Getting there is another story. Alright. So where we need to go now is we need to go to the construction base. Yay. And then we're gonna go see our little pip pot friend here. And he gives us the rough seed, which we will take to, what's it called? Tosca, I believe, is the name of the city, the town. Right before the mansion, the dark mansion, the black cave, and all that stuff. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. So we want to go to here. And before I forget, because we did this once already. Well, we've done it many times. Let's pass those slot seeds out. And they're not doing any good just sitting in our inventory, are they? And we'll head in here and get the last seed we need to trade to a pit pot. Pip pot. Pea pot. Whatever they're called. You know, the thing in the barrel. Pie pot. Pea pot. Pie pot. I'm going with pie pot. Oh, I think I'm in the wrong house. Whoop, Faith. You know what? If we go long on this episode, a little on the longer side in this episode, I'm thinking it might be in our best interest to just continue a little bit further. All right, so we should be so smooth seed. Good to know. Let's keep moving. So now we're gonna head back to Numara, and we're gonna risk it here and go possibly long, just on accident. But may as well, since we're this far in. Gonna save before we do anything. And before we go too far, since we're here, I don't know what we got. Let me see here. Just to make my life easier. Get this sorted out now. Good. Alright, let's keep moving. As we head through here. And this will continue the adventure, the story, one would say. Woman says me. Yeah, we'll probably go long, guys. Just because we'll be done with something that needs to be done. I'd hate to save it for the next episode, since you guys had to sit through a lot of reading.
Oh, great. It's I speak with a Majesty's voice.
Don't panic. Let's see how this plays out.
Welcome home, Your Majesty. Thank you all for bringing our queen home to us unharmed.
Wow, I didn't see that coming.
I don't trust him at all.
Trust him as far as you can throw him.
Huh? General, I have caused you concern. I ask that you look at me.
All of our people prayed for your safe return every day you were away from us. I am truly pleased.
Indeed.
You must be tired from your long journey. Please, rest and refresh yourself.
Does this not seem a bit odd? Like shenanigans are afoot? Because that looks like shenanigans to me. Bring it.
How dare you return, you worthless harlot! And you're angry? Ha! As if you had the right. At last, I have taken control of Numara and destroyed its weak pacifism. I shall never relinquish my hold on it. Ha! I think I'll see just how immortal our queen really is. Oh, do you see now? Numara is mine.
The people of Numara belong to no one!
Your Majesty?
General, you are such a fool.
Oh, you planned this!
Those who cannot conquer their desires shall never be fit to lead. How pathetic you are.
What? I'll kill you all!
Yeah, blow it out your ass. Dude fucked up the palace just because. Reasons. Oh, we'll get our vengeance, that's for sure. Alright, so your standard battle for the most part. Let's just go and reduce what he can do to some degree. As far as what magic to hit him with, I don't think it really matters because of what he is. And I don't believe there's any reason to try to steal anything either, so there's just really just bashing him down. Change it up just a wee bit and see how this all plays out, but you'll notice we're much faster than him, which is pretty good. Yeah, see, that's not a lot of damage. We might try something else for damage. That's one down.
I can make this nation stronger than pacifists and cowards like you! I am not finished yet! I will
All I hear is, wah, stop hurting me, wah, stop killing me. Oh, that's cute. He hit me with his purse. And he healed us, except for Ced. I'll force you and see if that's any better. Probably not. That's not gonna help me. Yeah, it's even less damage, so we'll go with the other stuff instead. Well, that just happened. But it'll stop happening in a little bit. And I say that because primarily, once we kill the other tank, he can't absorb MP from us any further. Two of them should be able to... Well, all of our offensive guys should be able to kill that. Let's take out the bottom tank part, I say. Because the cannon just really heals us, except for Ced, so... Or, yeah, except for Ced, so it makes sense to just move on, to be fair. Again with the heal. Now, the negative is he could go for back row people. But, meh. Not going after Seth, so that's making, I think, his full realization very difficult here. So now we only have to deal with the cannon, which pretty much heals us. So again, fire absorb is the way to go. As you can clearly see. And this battle will be over in about 2 to 3 rounds. Not even that long.
Haven't you seen the state of the world? With pacifism as our only policy, we will never be perceived as equal to other nations. In truth, the day is coming soon when we will be forced to capitulate.
Yes, I realized after seeing the world that sometimes power is needed. But General, the power you seek is power only for yourself. That is why it is weak.
And we are victorious. And we get a new weapon for Seth, which is always great. Or Ced, rather. And Seth learns that. Sweet. Oh, boy. And I believe we're going to get the last of the 1,000 Years of Memories. I almost thought about doing this next episode, but I think you guys are kind of burnt out from reading these, and I'm burnt out from reading them. 31's pushing it. I think there's 31 of them total.
Your Majesty!
Ugh. Gollum.
Maya.
Oh, you're safe.
Ew, keep it away.
I'm so sorry we failed to anticipate Kakanas' scheme.
It's not your fault. I was too lenient with him by far. I afforded him the opportunity to run unchecked, and for that, the responsibility is mine.
Don't blame yourself.
He's right. I mean, that general is twisted.
And yet, even he too is another of Gongora's many victims.
Yeah, he does really well by himself.
Your Majesty, may I know the names of your companions?
Oh, yes. Oh, excuse me. I haven't introduced you. These are my loyal ladies-in-waiting. Maya here is my chief lady-in-waiting.
Greetings and welcome to Numara.
Excellent.
We are honored.
Maya, these people have become my dear friends, treated with the greatest courtesy. We are all working for a common goal, and we have an urgent mission to complete.
A mission? And what of Numara, Your Majesty? Your Majesty?
Until I carry out this mission, I shall have to be away from my people. During that time, I shall entrust Numara to the care of my ladies.
To us, Your Majesty?
Please do as I would. As you have been closest to me, I believe you are capable of what I ask. I shall return as swiftly as possible.
World saving comes first.
Yes, my queen. While Your Majesty is away, we shall protect Numara. We shall not fail.
And the final dream, I think. Please be the final dream. I'm so sick of these myself. Not in a bad way, and I do still think they're relevant and great. It's just, I think a better way to sit and do this is to just sit with all of them. It's the reading out loud is, taking its toll.
The Queen's loneliness. 1,000 years can change everything, including the landscape. Queen Ming surveys her capital from the palace window. The panoramic view is like a great history book. The volcano towering in the distance, which used to spew clouds of smoke, went dormant for 700 years ago. 300, 400, 500. Once part of the sea, the inlet was reclaimed 500 years ago to become a village for the fisherfolk who spend their lives on the ocean. 100, 200, 300. The river once arched grandly across the landscape, but the deluge that occurred 300 years ago became the occasion for major flood control construction in the form of a perfectly straight canal. Where the river used to curve, there is now an oxbow lake in which reeds grow in profusion, and the bank provide the people with a rich natural bounty. 100, 150, 200 years ago. Even the area that formerly was barren, rock-strewn wasteland became a vast, fruit-bearing garden thanks to the irrigation project that was undertaken 200 years ago.
I'm going to stop reading the cyclical stuff.
The mountain that was the center of the people's religious faith was enveloped in a sky-scorching flames 100 years ago. Formerly swathed in a thick green covering and seen as the home of the gods, The towering peak was transformed into a bare rock pile by a forest fire that burned there 3 days and nights. Almost everything that lived in the forest, birds and beasts of course, but many people too died in the flames. The people in that village below mourned the horrible transformation of the gods' abode. But now, 100 years later, the mountain is as green as ever. The people of the village and the people of the mountain still tell the story of the fire, but today's children can hardly imagine that the rich, green slopes were once charred and blackened. Restored though to its original green lushness, of course, the mountain could well be enveloped in flames again, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, or even tomorrow. Even if it should be charred bare again, however, trees would sprout anew. The birds and beasts and insects chased away by the fire would return to their homes, and given enough time, the mountain would be covered in green as before. Such are the workings of nature. Given enough time, dizzying stretches of time. But no. To become dizzy at the thought of the vast stretches of time is a privilege of the ordinary folk, those who have no choice but to devote all their energies to living in the present. How fortunate that they are able to look back to the past of 1,000 years ago, like an old man telling a child a fairy tale, once upon a time, a long, long time ago. And how truly fortunate one would be to be able to tell the story of this country's future as a rosy dream, the way children relate their own dreams of the future with flashing eyes, and to entrust that dream to the next reign. Ming stands at the window like this every morning. 'Tis a special time of day for her, when she thinks about the livelihood of her subjects, watches for signs of enemy intrusions, and ponders measures she might wish to adopt. She has done this every day without fail for the past 1,000 years. The country has flourished. The people no longer starve as they did when she first took the throne. The future historians will no doubt sing the praises of Ming's 1,000-year reign. She will be extolled as the 1,000-year-old queen, and her noble figure will be vividly engraved in people's memories. Cherishing these memories of her, however, people will die before she does. The historians who praise her, too, instead of witnessing her reign to its end, will themselves become a part of history. Ming has been queen for the past 1,000 years, and probably will be for the next 1,000 years as well. Her Majesty is in excellent spirits again this morning, I trust. She hears a voice behind her. Her gaze still fixed on the city below, Ming answers, "You are early today." Not so early if Her Majesty herself is already observing the smoke rising from the cauldrons of her people. She need not turn to ascertain the identity of the smiling face behind her. It belongs to Nagram, her senior minister. The smile is courtly, genial, but deep within the narrow eyes she knows there resides a dark gleam. Today I will accompany Her Majesty to the inspection of the troops. You? Yes, owing to a slight change in assignment today. Is that so? I am hardly up to the task, but I will do my best if Her Majesty will allow me to serve her in this capacity. I beg her permission. With her back still turned to Nagram, Ming gives a silent nod. Ah, yes, she thinks to herself with a bitter smile, their plan goes into action today. Ming has sensed for a very long time that Nagram is up to no good. He apparently has seized command of certain units of the Royal Guard, scattered throughout the city, too. His people are lying low, ready to set fires as soon as his orders come down. No doubt about it, today, when the regular ceremonial inspection of the troops is scheduled to take place, is the perfect day for a coup. When Nagram leaves, Ming enters her office and summons Haynes, the most senior of her minister, a true elder statesman and her most trusted confidant. Haynes, who sports a luxurious beard, was serving Ming for over 40 years. Your Majesty, I understand Nagram was here earlier. Yes, apparently he's accompanying me to the inspection of the troops. This is all she had to tell him. Stroking his bushy beard, Hines says, "That means they've run out of patience." "I know," replies Ming. "I'm sure they can't wait to get started." What a fool Nagram is. He has absolutely no idea that your majesty has been letting him set his own trap. If he was smart enough to realize that, he would be taking at least 2 more years to make his preparations. Then he would have much more power at his disposal. He could link up not just with the royal guard, but also with the main body of the army and the police force. He could conspire with external enemies and arrange for them to invade just as the ceremonies were getting underway. Then his coup would probably succeed. If he had the long-range vision to include the wealthy merchants and the intelligentsia among his allies, he might even be able to mount a revolution that would overthrow the monarchy itself. That is what I would do if I were Nagram. As long as I was undertaking a coup, I would think about that much at least. Haynes' smiles could not hide the fact that all this talk of a successful revolution was making him uncomfortable. Her Majesty is outmatched by any enemy except one, Her Majesty herself. He may be right, Ming thinks. If she had an enemy with an eternal life like hers who was willing to devote all the time needed to planning a revolution, be it a whole century or even 2, the result would surely go beyond revolution and develop into a full-scale civil war. Human lives, however, are limited in duration, and because of this limitation, humans rush to achieve results before they are ready. Nagram is one of them. If he could live 200 years, to say nothing of 1,000, he would not be trying to take up arms at such an in-between point in time. Still, says Haynes, I have to admit that Nagram has extended his forces far more successfully than I ever imagined. What have I been doing all this time? I'm utterly ashamed of myself. Don't let it bother you, Haynes. Think of your inattention. We will probably be able to smoke out many more rats. Ming gives a satisfied chuckle. Nor is there mere bravado on her part. They choose not to arrest Nagram at an earlier stage, but allow him to swim free for a while in order to take this opportunity to net the entire force of rebels both inside and outside the palace. Yes, I know, Haynes replies and goes on to explain the plan for crushing the coup. His plans are impeccable. The coup has virtually no chance of succeeding. All they need to do is carry out a whole-seat arrest of the rebel royal guard units that rise up in the palace and the partisans lurking in the city, and it will be some time before any more individuals with outsized ambitions show up again. This will be our first purge in 15 years, Haynes remarks. Has it been that long? It certainly has, Your Majesty. This fine beard of mine was jet black last time. Haynes commanded the troops that put down the coup 15 years ago. Loyal, courageous, and cool-headed, he is the ideal staff officer. Without a doubt, he is one of the very best military advisors Ming has had in over 1,000 years on the throne. How selfish of me, Haynes. I should have let you retire years ago. That is out of the question, Your Majesty. Serving you is my life. I am deeply honored to have this final opportunity to be of service. True, not even this superb retainer could be here with her through all eternity. In another 5 years, 10 at the most, Haynes, like other loyal retainers of the past, would be laid to rest to the sound of military cannons. It is always like this, just as the ambitious ones rush to make their mark because they cannot live forever. The loyal ones in whom she can place her complete confidence stake their very lives on serving her because they cannot live forever. They carve their names in a single line of history, and then they depart from Ming for the rest of eternity. Ming herself, though, goes on living, eternal youth, immortality. So this is a dream of humanity, is it? None of them know the loneliness of eternal life. When Haynes next addressed Ming, there is a new urgency in his voice. About the troops that will quell the uprising, I will command the ones outside the palace to have Her Majesty's permission to put command of the interior palace guards in the hands of my young protege, Yan. Ah, yes, Yan. He may be young, but he is extremely capable. I have nurtured him carefully. I know he will serve Her Majesty splendidly after this old soldier is gone. I would like to give him an opportunity to distinguish himself from the current emergency. Ming herself is fully aware of Yan's outstanding qualities. Young as he most certainly is, he far excels the other chamberlains in both the civil and military arts. He is undoubtedly the prime candidate to succeed Haynes as Ming's top general. What are Her Majesty's thoughts on the matter? All right then, let him take charge. Her Majesty has my unbounded thanks. I am sure Yan himself will be deeply moved to learn that he has earned Her Majesty's confidence. Haynes all but prostrates himself before her, an expression of relief on his face at having obtained Ming's permission, but still, he continues, Her Majesty has been weary of Nagram for a very long time. True, she says. Meanwhile, this old soldier of yours has no idea whatever that Nagram might be planning a rebellion. I am deeply ashamed to confess it now, but to me he seems the very model of loyalty. How is it that Her Majesty was able to see Nagram's actual disloyalty? Ming only smiles without answering his question. The same thing happened at the time of the coup 15 years ago, Haynes continued. The only reason that we were able to suppress the revolt before it even got started was that Her Majesty saw it coming before anyone else. Then, as now, I was blind to the traitor's plot. If you say so, Haynes. Has Her Majesty forgotten? Well, it was so long ago. Ming tries to evade the issue. There is no way she could have forgotten. The ringleader of the coup 15 years ago was a most trusted retainer. When she first broached the subject to Haynes and the others, warned them to be on their guard against the man, all without exception, and insisted that he, above all, was beyond reproach. In the end, Ming's suspicions proved to be correct. She knew. However, faithfully he carried out her orders. However, warmly he swore his loyalty, she knew. These days, however, she has begun to wonder on occasion if that is something to be grateful for. The landscape is not the only thing that changes in 1,000 years. People's hearts also change. After numberless meetings and partings over the centuries, Ming has come to realize the fragility, the evanescence of trust. She no longer trusts anything in words, neither can she fully trust everything in action. She knows by looking at a person's eyes. That way she can tell everything to a mysterious or disheartening degree. In the eyes of all those who would bring harm to this country, without exception, there resides a dark gleam. It is there in all of them, the man plotting a coup, the man secretly involved in foreign enemies, the man fattening his purse with heavy taxes wrung from the people, the female spy who seduces high ministers to extract state secrets, the man who accepts huge bribes from merchants eager for the glory of becoming an official purveyor of the royal household. Neither their words nor their deeds give them away. Often the man himself has no idea of the misdeeds he will later commit, but Ming can tell. Only Ming, who has lived for 1,000 years. The silent voices tell her, be careful of this man. Don't take your eyes off that woman. This was not the case in her youth, but having repeatedly tasted the bitter experience of betrayal, having been assailed by her own regrets and self-reproach, she has learned to doubt. Ming can see what no one else can, the dark gleam deep in the eyes. This has enabled her to ward off a variety of disasters before they could start. The kingdom has managed to flourish because Ming has more often chose to doubt than to believe. This is the best course for her to follow as queen. It is, however, an infinitely lonely way to live. Nagram's coup collapses in an instant. The rebel units of the Royal Guard, who draw their swords against Ming during the inspection of the troops in the plaza, become the prey of Yan and his men, who have been hiding around the perimeter. Meanwhile, the anti-rebel forces under Haynes' command pounce on Nagram's followers, who have been gathering to set fire to the city, and arrest them without resistance. Poor Nagram grovels to the earth, begging for his life. To him, Ming says only, I grant you the right to die with honor. The soldier lay sore before Nagram. Wordlessly, Ming conveys to Nagram that it is time for him to take his own life. She turns on her heels and returns to the palace under armed escort. This will keep anyone from having thoughts of fomenting a rebellion. For a while, at least, the peace of the kingdom has been preserved, but it will not last forever. When the memory of Nagram's coup begins to fade 10 years from now, or 20, or even 100, another man with ambition will emerge, as has happened so many times before. It is the role of the queen to accept this endlessly repeating cycle. Ming tells herself sighing. Ming is standing at the palace window surveying the city streets below when Yan enters the room. Your Majesty, I'm here to report that Nagram successfully took his own life a short while ago. Oh? Did he dispatch himself with dignity? He did. Traitor though he was, he died in a way befitting a commanding general. Return his body to his family with all due ceremony. She turns and stares straight at Yan, whose spine stiffens under the onslaught of her gaze. And then she sees it, without a doubt. That dark gleam flashes deep within his eyes for one fleeting instant. So Yan is another one, is he? She thinks with a bitter smile. Unable to fathom the meaning of her smile, Yan is at a loss for words. Thank you for all your effort, Ming says to him. Suppressing a sigh, she turns to the window again. The sky stretches overhead in an expanse of blue. The only thing unchanged for the past 1,000 years may be the blue of that sky. But still I am the queen, Ming tells herself, meditating on her role. I am the one who rules this country and maintains the people's happiness. She gazes long and hard at the sky, rising to her full proud height. Oh look, it's Queen Ming! A little boy in an alleyway below the castle spots Ming and begins waving at her wildly. Queen Ming, Queen Ming! A woman, the boy's mother no doubt, charges out the doorway and, bowing humbly to Ming, begins scolding the boy for his rude behavior. Ming herself, however, waves back at him, a placid smile on her face. Smiling joyfully at this unexpected response from Her Majesty the Queen, the boy starts jumping up and down, shouting, Long live the Queen Ming! Long live Queen Ming! Ming stares at the sky above. Unchanged though it has been for 1,000 years, the blue of the sky penetrates more deeply into her eyes and her heart than it ever did in the days of her youth. Oh! Whoa. And there we go. Big dreamer. Woo. Because we have read and acquired every dream. I think you have to read them all, too, to be fair. Not out loud like I did, but go through, you can go through the cycle. And whatnot.
We should take the white boa. The white boa?
If it's a ship you need, we have the Nautilus.
To get through the ice fields, we'll need a ship that can break the ice with its hull. And the white boa can do that.
Yeah, it's true the Nautilus doesn't have as much strength. She'd probably be no match against the ice. I guess she wouldn't be right for this one.
Oh, I meant no insult to the Nautilus. She has shown unmatched maneuverability. And we shall have need of her again. Please, lend us your help when we need it.
Yeah, sure. Leave it to me.
We should be able to berth the Nautilus inside the white boa. That way we could use either ship when needed.
That's true. I shall go ahead of you to the harbor to give instructions for our departure.
Ming,
What is it?
will you go back? Not to our world, but to your country.
Swing.
You must choose at some point. A 1,000 years is a long time.
There are many important things to be done in this world.
She keeps looking at Jensen, so Jensen knows what needs to be done too. Giggity, 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 giggity.
Kime. What will you do?
All right, so we have acquired all of the dreams, all of the memories, 1,000 years of memories done, and now the only new memories we have are the ones going forward. Thank you guys for stopping by. I'm your host, the RPG Guy. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/JackTar Studios for more live gaming action. And when we come back, we're going to search the palace. We're also going to get a brand new ship. We're going to complete some more side questing fun because you can never seem to get enough of that. And again, thank you guys for stopping by. We'll see you guys next time.